All right, well, here we go again. It seems that there's certain people on here that like to come across as being so much smarter than the rest of us. And they have their own version of what they call the facts. And the rest of us are just biased. And it's so easy to make a point and come across as being right and everyone else is wrong when you only tell one side of the story. You only show one side of the argument. So now we're going to go back American bias thing because for some reason, you know, all these poor foreign fighters that come to fight in the US, they don't get a fair shake. Okay, well, let's go back in history and let's look at some of the foreign fighters that have fought in Europe in their own home countries or their adopted home countries, however you want to put it. And let's look at the history and let's see and point out situations foreign fighters have gotten so-called preferential treatment. And guess what? As we're American. So let's take a look at Felix Sturm, the German fighter, the former WBO middleweight champion, a WBA middleweight champion, and super middleweight champion as well. This was a fighter who pretty much fought exclusively over in Germany. Some of his questionable victories. In 2014, the most recent one against Robert Stieglitz, split decision. Martin Murray, 2011, it's a split draw in a fight that many people scored for Martin Murray. And Matthew Macklin went over to Germany, okay, and I believe clearly beat Felix Sturm, and he was on the wrong end of a split decision loss. And let's take a look at Arthur Abraham, okay? And just to, make a side note here, Felix Sturm, Arthur Abraham, and Nikolai Valuev, another fighter who I'm going to talk about later, there's a connection with all these three fighters, and I'll tell you that in a moment. Now, Arthur Abraham, again, 2014, questionable split decision victory over Robert Stieglitz. 2015, same thing with Matt Murray. Arguably could have lost both those fights, but once again, fighting in his adopted hometown of Germany, somehow gets the benefit of the doubt in both fights, just as Felix Sturm has historically got the benefit of the doubt fighting in Germany. Now, Nikolai Valuev fought Johnny Ruiz, okay, in a fight that was pretty questionable in its own right. Majority decision victory over Johnny Ruiz. Again, Johnny Ruiz traveled overseas to fight the foreign fighter and arguably won, but did not get the benefit of the doubt. And another fight in 2008 where Evander Holyfield fought Nikolai Valuev, then WBA heavyweight champion, in Switzerland, saw the fight 10 times, clearly thought Evander Holyfield won the fight, but for some mysterious reason, okay, he loses by majority decision. Okay? Forgive me, I'm going to try to pronounce this cruiserweight's name. I always have a hard time pronouncing this guy's name. Krzysztof Wlodarczyk, again, over Steve Cunningham, 2007, gets a split decision victory in a fight that I clearly thought Steve Cunningham won. Let's top this whole thing off with Thomas Adamek, Polish cruiserweight champion, fighting in New Jersey. Steve Cunningham, American-born fighter, and Steve Cunningham mysteriously loses basically a split decision loss to Steve Cunningham, or Steve Cunningham loses to basically Thomas Adamek. So, how does that happen? Steve Cunningham, an American-born fighter, fighting a Polish-born fighter in New Jersey, and in a fight that I scored for Steve Cunningham and most everyone else scored for Steve Cunningham. How does he lose by split decision? So again, you can go in history and look at all of these fighters, and three fighters on this list are promoted by Sauerland Promotions. Now, again, did these fighters get preferential treatment just because they were, they're foreign, just because they come from a certain nationality or a certain ethnic background? No. Basically, they had the big promoter push behind them. Sit there and say just because of where a fighter is born or a fighter's background or ethnicity, that's going to favor them. Yeah, okay, maybe it may favor them in certain settings if they fight in their hometown or if they fight in their home country, whatever. But I just showed you and gave you an example of a Polish fighter coming over to the United States, fighting an American fighter, and getting the benefit of the doubt in a split decision victory in a fight that just about everyone thought Steve Cunningham won. So this just debunks that only American fighters get the benefit of the doubt and they get favorable treatment. And look at Vladimir Klitschko. People talk about how American fighters are divas also, and they get these foreign fighters to come over to fight in the United States and basically stack the deck against them. Well, how many times has Vladimir Klitschko, who's a Russian-born fighter, fight in Germany, and how many times have American-born fighters go over to fight Vladimir Klitschko? So Vladimir Klitschko, Robert Stieglitz, Arthur Abraham, they've been able to fight, in Europe and make a good living. But for whatever reason, Gennady Golovkin cannot fight in Europe and make as much money as he does fight in the United States. Because why else would he come here to fight in the United States? Why else would Sergey Kovalev come here to fight in the United States? No one's twisting these fighters' arms to come over here and fight in the United States. So why should we feel sorry for them? They made, a conscious decision to come over to fight in the United States, okay? And the reason why they did it, obviously, is because they can make more money in the United States. Where these other fighters were able to, fight in their own regions, their own countries, their own areas of, where they set up home base, they've been able to fight over there and make a living without having to come to the United States. Now, Vladimir Klitschko has come to the United States to make a living, in certain fights, but, predominantly he's fought in Europe, and it's been okay for him. It's been a success story. So to just sit there and say that, there's a conspiracy theory, this Alex Jones conspiracy theory against foreign fighters, Eastern European fighters, it's ridiculous because I've shown you evidence that suggests just the opposite. So, guys can come on here and sit there and try to put out this conspiracy theory that, there's this hidden agenda against European fighters, or Eastern European fighters, or foreign fighters. But in the history of boxing, the guy with the big promotional machine behind him is usually the guy that gets that push and has a tendency to get the benefit of the doubt in certain situations. So basically the house fighter or the fighter with the big promoter behind him gets that push. All right, guys, that's all I got for now. Until next time, Beaver's out. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.